Macca's Guides.
Welcome back. We now hop on board for Chapter 4, one of the shorter chapters in the game. And as it is pretty short, it doesn't have too many collectibles. 110 Floofs, 3 Readables, as well as 1 Health Filament upgrade. And this one I think is only going to clock in around 15 or 20 minutes, depending on how quickly we get through some of the battles here. We do start with a little bit of a cutscene, which does kind of introduce us into the chapter. So once that's over with, I'll rejoin you with commentary. We'll be getting quite a few collectibles quite quickly as we get through the level.
After I got you out of that tree, you said you helped me find my mama.
I ain't of a disposition to be gator snacks.
Well, me neither.
If we're gonna go on, we gotta get rid of him.
I'm all ears.
There's a church up a ways with a big bell. Go on and ring it.
You want to make him come running?
Tom can't abide the sound of bells. Some church folks once tried to dynamite him, and he didn't take that too kindly. If you ring that bell, he might skedaddle.
You better not skedaddle.
Go on now, scoot. I'll pick you up yonder after to go find your mom.
So there isn't too much story development here in Chapter 4. We're tasked with ringing the bell at the end of the level, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and follow that main story path right before it splits. There's a lot of splits, and you might miss one. And at the end of every split is at least 1, if not 2 or 3 collectibles. So as we come down into this first area, we can we'll notice the church off in the distance. That's where we're headed towards. And we'll drop off of the cliff here. And instead of going across directly in front of us, look to your left. You'll see a weavable platform here. You'll do a double jump and a glide over. And then you'll look to your left. You'll do another double jump and a glide over to some rocks that you can scale in order to get across to this side optional area. And once you drop down, you should be able to just kind of go up a ledge here. And this will get you directly to your floof. This one is worth 20. And then we'll just loop back around to where we started in this section. And then we can now go to the main story path by weaving a boat and then getting across. And we will be introduced into a new game mechanic here called the grapple. So this little point in front of me is called a grapple point. Use the left trigger to grapple to it. And it does also carry some momentum with you. It's a little bit unfortunate that these look exactly like floofs, so it's a little bit complicated to know if you're looking at a grapple or a floof from far away. But after you get through your first gap here, at the fork in the road, instead of going to the right, go to the left. Here you'll find a couple of grapple points that'll get you across a gap. You may need to double jump and then dash your way across. And at the end of this path, you'll find another floof. Go ahead and jump back up these and grapple back to where we came from. You may need to do that double jump and that dash again. And then as soon as you come down the hill, again, we're on the main story path, but there's a lot of little detours here. Let's take a right-hand turn and jump up these 2 ledges, clearing the brush. And down here you can find another floof. So we'll grab that. And then you'll come up. And again, instead of following that main path, go across the walkway towards a grapple point you'll notice in the trees. Grapple from one point to the next, and to the next, and to the next, landing on another floof. So make sure you grab that. And if you are looking for a quick check, we're at 45 out of 110, making our way through the chapter quite quickly, to be honest. And then just get back to that main story path. Here you'll be introduced into a little bit of a new mechanic, which are these exploding mushrooms that'll pop up in front of me here. Actually, maybe not yet. Maybe the mushrooms are on the next little river crossing. I play through a lot of these chapters 2, 3, or 4 times before filming the playthrough you watch. So yeah, we're going to do the mushrooms a little bit later. We'll get across this gap into a combat arena. Feel free to upgrade whatever you want to upgrade. You should have more than enough to afford everything that we currently have unlocked. And we're going to get through this fight kind of as quickly as possible. No reason to drag it on, no achievements to really work on. So let's just get through it quickly. After the fight, I always recommend just grabbing the health, just to have full health before you exit the fight. Unless you needed the health during the fight, obviously, then it's not there. But don't make a bad habit like I did earlier on in the game when I first played it, where I was not grabbing the health after finishing up an area. At this point, we can just follow the main path out of this fight, which is a little bit unusual for us. But as we come down here, you may notice that there is a small little cave to the left. So let's go ahead and follow that. Push the brush away to clear a small area in here. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the house on the right-hand side here. Go inside of this house and interact with the floof. You also want to interact with the page on the bed, which might seem out of order, but this is going to be number 2. Don't worry.
Catfish need to leave these people alone.
After that readable, let's go ahead and head out of the building. And instead of going back to where we came from, we're going to loop around to the back of the building. We're going to grapple once and twice to get behind the building. And then as we land behind the building, you should be able to find a floof worth 20, as well as a readable on the barrel. And this is actually going to be readable number 1. So we have number 1 and number 2, although we did get them technically out of order. And then we can grapple and get back to our little main story path again. These are the exploding mushrooms I mentioned earlier. So what happens is you can just clear them, and they will respawn after about 5 or 10 seconds. But once they're cleared, you can kind of run by them. If you don't clear them, they'll explode and often push you off the map. Once you land halfway here, you'll pick up a rock. Use that to explode the mushrooms. You'll notice a cow on a building, which is interesting, but actually not a part of the game. Go ahead and use our newly discovered little plank there to get across the gap. Climb up the ledges and into the next area, interacting with the book to start a little bit of a cutscene.
This picture, I could kill a man. Something's gotta change. I feel like a thread being pulled far too taut, trying to make the world a better place. Not for me, for her. I have to keep these kids safe. I wish I could do more.
That sounds so hard. Mama must have seen some pretty messed up stuff. I struggled with just seeing what Benji went through.
So as we come out of the cutscene, we will be in front of the church here. If you were to just run to the church, it would pretty much end the chapter. There's a lot of collectibles we want to grab before we do that, as we don't want the chapter to end too early. So keep to the left and then head up this little ledge. Between these two cars, you'll notice a tin flip. So make sure you grab that tin flip. Again, probably the hardest collectible in the game. Type. And then from that tin flip, you can basically walk, keeping the church on your right-hand side, across the path into the next little part of the graveyard and to the cliff's edge. And then at the cliff's edge, you'll notice another tin flip. So we'll grab that one as well. Now we're going to walk away from the church to the opposite direction using the little main path here. At the end of the path, you'll notice the mushrooms, and to the right of the path in the corner, you'll notice a couple of mausoleums and this tree. Now, this tree is one of those items we typically wouldn't inspect, but this one somehow is readable number 3 out of 3. So don't worry, I'll have you covered with all the little tricky ones like this one later on in the game. That's all our readables taken care of. At the end of that same path that leads away from the church, you'll find the exploding mushrooms. Take them out. And if you take a left-hand turn, this is our kind of optional arena, which was introduced in the last chapter. It happens more often in the game, but it's basically a fight that you don't need to do and can easily be missed. But we're obviously going to need to do them as they generate floofs, and we want to make sure we get all the floofs for all the achievements. You can get through this fight pretty much just as quickly as you can. So with that fight over, I did spend a little bit of extra time on that fight trying to get some perfect dodges for something I was testing. But that fight should be over, hopefully pretty quick for you. Make sure you do heal up, although I don't think it matters because we are ending off this chapter pretty soon. And then make sure you pull the stigma out to finish off this section. We do have all 3 of the unreadables. We are at 100 out of 110 for the Floofs. And we are also still missing our Health Filament. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and head back to that main path, heading towards the church. And we're going to keep to the right of the church this time, following that path. And as you reach these next gravestones here to our left, you should find a tin flip, 105 out of 110 now. And then across the path here, you'll notice that there's a cliff's edge with a grapple point. Let's grapple to that, get to the next grapple, get to the next grapple, and the next. This will link us to an island out here behind the church where we can find our final floof. That's 110 out of 110. And you may notice that there are some platforms that lead even further away from where we came from. So let's go ahead and follow those. And at the end of that, you may find 2 more grapple points. And these 2 grapple points end in your health filament. So let's grab our filament for 2 out of 3. That's for progress towards a health upgrade and not specifically tied to this level. There is only 1 health filament in this level, but our next health filament will upgrade our health, generally speaking. So now we can kind of fast travel back to kind of where we came from. We want to end up, now that we're kind of ready to progress a little bit here, we want to end up behind the church, kind of on the hill behind it. You'll notice a weavable cart around back. So you are going to want to weave it and then pull it towards yourself. And make sure you don't get hit by it on its way here. And then you want to pull it a second time, which will bring it up to the back of the church. You have to be pretty quick as it does disappear within about 5 or 10 seconds. And then you can mantle up onto the church before it disappears. And you can drop down in here. Once in here, walk forward, clear the wood, allowing you to platform up the pillar to the bell tower. Once you reach the bell tower, you should get a little bit of a cutscene here. And this cutscene closes off chapter number 4. We got all of our collectibles, and we finished the chapter here in like record time, probably under 15 minutes. And we do get an achievement for completing the chapter once the next chapter starts. But I'll leave you with that. Thanks so much for watching this chapter. Drop a like on the video, share the video with a friend. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. Peace.
You said he'd run away.
I might have been missing 4.